The show opens up in Damascus, Syria, where the infamous terrorist organization, the Islamic State, aka ISIS, is slowly advancing. They are attempting to bombard the city and make it their own. Although the entire world knows of this, no one dares to intervene, and the innocent people of Damascus are left to live in fear. One day, in the midst of all the chaos, an unidentified man clad in yellow is preaching to crowd, urging them to stay calm. He tells them that they need not worry about the Islamic State, as the fate of Damascus has been divinely ordained. As the Islamic State begins firing upon the city from their vantage point on the outskirts of Damascus, the people brace themselves for the worst. However, before the enemy can breach the city's walls, a massive sandstorm of biblical proportions descends upon Damascus, enveloping it in a thick blanket of dust. The sandstorm rages for an entire month, effectively isolating the city from the outside world. The roads and airports are rendered impassable, businesses are forced to shut down, and the people are left to struggle in the face of this natural disaster. Yet, in a surprising turn of events, the sandstorm also proves to be Damascus's salvation. The Islamic State's supply lines are disrupted, and they are forced to retreat from the city, defeated and humiliated. The scene then cuts to a fertility clinic, where C.I.A. case officer Eva Geller is recovering from yet another miscarriage. She is evidently devastated, but she collects herself and returns to work. There she learns about the preacher, who has now gained popularity after correctly predicting that Damascus will not fall to ISIS. He is hailed as a messiah, and people have named him Al-Masih. It is also revealed that he has amassed more than 2,000 followers, consisting mostly of displaced Palestinians. Currently, he is leading them to a desert. Among the followers is an orphan boy named Jibril, who is fascinated by Al-Masih's knowledge and wisdom. Although the real identity and motive of the preacher is unknown, his growing influence worries Geller, and she keeps a close eye on him. Later that day, Al-Masih and his followers set up camp to spend the night. Jibril finally gets to interact with him and manages to become his favorite. Soon the C.I.A. gets to know that Al-Masih is leading the refugees to the Israeli border. They scramble to alert Israeli authorities, while the preacher's followers vow to fight the Jewish state. However, Al-Masih stuns his followers when he orders everyone to collect their weapons and bury them. Although puzzled, they eventually oblige and follow him to the border. After a while, as expected, the Israeli army stops the group and arrests Al-Masih for trying to infiltrate the Jewish state. Geller requests the American Undersecretary of the Middle East to let her interrogate Al-Masih, but he declines, saying it's none of America's business. The scene then cuts to the home of Avraham Dahan, who works for the Shin Bet Israeli International Security Agency. He is always occupied with work, which caused the breakdown of his marriage with his ex-wife. Later, Avraham begins interrogating Al-Masih, and to his surprise, the mysterious man responds in fluent Hebrew. Despite his expertise, Avraham is unable to get a clear answer from Al-Masih, who claims to be on a divine mission to deliver a message from his father. As the interrogation continues, the preacher astounds Avraham by calling him by his real name. Al-Masih also correctly predicts that Avraham is hurting internally because of an incident that happened with a young boy and Megiddo during a Shin Bet operation. Hearing all this, the agent abruptly ends the interrogation and deletes the recording from Shin Bet records. In the next scene, Avraham meets his close friend and inquires if he had ever mentioned the Megiddo incident to anyone. The latter assures that he would never do such a thing. With this consolation, Avraham decides to continue his interrogation at 3:00 a.m. in the morning. However, to his astonishment, he learns that Al-Masih has escaped from detention. Following this, we are taken to Dilley, Texas, where a young girl named Rebecca is seen smoking a cigarette by herself in a field. Her father, Felix Higuero, is the town's pastor. The Higuero family is currently going through financial hardships, and they are struggling to pay off their debts. This has caused friction in Mr. and Mrs. Higuero's marriage, as the former refuses to seek help from his father-in-law. As the news of Al-Masih's escape spreads, tensions rise among the people he had led to Israel's border, who now face starvation and uncertainty. The international community watches with concern, fearing the potential for a larger crisis to unfold. Meanwhile, Geller finally receives clearance from her superiors and travels to Israel. She is determined to uncover the truth behind Al-Masih's extraordinary abilities and his mysterious message. Upon arrival, Geller is allowed to attend a debriefing of Avraham. The officials are shocked as Al-Masih managed to escape just 2 minutes after Avraham entered the detention facility. They are even more disturbed to learn that the security cameras in the cell block were mysteriously switched off for a crucial 12-minute period during which the prisoner made his escape. Despite their suspicions, Avraham maintains his innocence and insists that the deleted tape contained nothing of significance. Meanwhile, the news of Al-Masih's escape reaches his followers at the border, and they become further resolved to stay. A paranoid Avraham feels like he's being set up, so he picks up his daughter from her play school, fearing for her safety. However, as he drives around with her, he notices a man resembling Al-Masih in the crowd. Determined to get to the bottom of this, he leaves his daughter in the car and follows the man, only to realize that he was mistaken. In the next scene, the real Al-Masih shows up at the temple mouth in Jerusalem and starts preaching a sermon to the crowd. He says that these steps to the holy place have been stained with the blood of brothers killing each other for far too long. But now that time has ended. History has ended. Al-Masih claims the judgment day is here, when the Almighty will judge everyone's souls. Soon, the Israeli police catch wind of the sermon and they move to capture Al-Masih. However, they are forced to stay put when someone seemingly fires a gun from the crowd and a boy ends up getting hurt. Panic ensues, and the boy's mother accuses the Israelis of shooting him. But right then, Al-Masih lays hands on the boy and miraculously brings him to life. The latter even rises up and displays a bloody bullet to the crowd. As expected, everyone hails this as a miracle. But before they can interrogate Al-Masih, he disappears into thin air. A few hours later, the news of the Al-Masih and his mysterious escape finally gets out in the media, and fresh riots start in Jerusalem over the shooting. To contain the violence, the Israeli police seal the Temple Mount and hold the people back in Damascus. After Al-Masih doesn't come into contact with his followers at the border, some of them begin to get restless. They wonder if he has abandoned them for good, but the group elder urges them to remain faithful and not act out of foolish despair. In the meantime, Avraham is approached by Geller, who asks him about the deleted interrogation tape, but he refuses to tell her anything. Afterwards, Geller hires local Israeli agents, including her old friend Kamar, to help her investigate. They examine the footage from the shooting, but fail to locate anyone firing the gun. Hence, Geller begins to suspect that the entire episode may have been a charade, and the boy who was shot might be in on it. To get to the bottom of the truth, she drives to East Jerusalem with Kamar to find the Arab boy. However, they learn that the boy has already left with his family, fearing for his safety. Meanwhile, pressure starts to mount on the Israeli authorities as they refuse to allow the refugees into its country. At the border, an Arab woman from Israel covertly gives food to Jibril, assuring him that they will be fine. Surprisingly, Avraham is watching it all transpire, and after the woman leaves, he kidnaps the boy. Following this, we are again taken to Texas, where the teenager, Rebecca, packs her bags and runs away from home. After a few hours, her father, Felix, wakes up in the middle of the night and strangely goes to a gas station. He then collects some gas in a canister and heads towards the church, intending to burn it to the ground. Back in his room, Felix's phone starts bursting with notifications of a tornado warning, waking up his wife, Anna. When she reads the warning, she frantically rushes to find both Rebecca and Felix, but to no avail. Suddenly, the town's air raid sirens begin to wail, and Anna finally finds Felix inside the church. The two start to worry as their daughter is nowhere to be found. With each passing moment, the tornado grows stronger, tearing through buildings and uprooting trees, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. As the husband-wife duo go out looking for Rebecca, they suddenly spot a mysterious figure standing amidst the chaos. He is none other than Alma C. He must have heard about how good the barbecue is here. Later on, a video of Alma C rescuing Rebecca is uploaded on the internet, and in no time, the CIA gets wind of this. Geller immediately orders her fellow agents to take the video down so that it doesn't become viral. She is perplexed as to how Alma C made it to America. The scene then cuts to a federal agent from the Joint Terrorism Task Force named Will, who drives to Dilley, Texas. He is taken aback to see the damage the tornado is left behind. It is then revealed that the only building left untouched was the church, and inside are Alma C and Felix. He explains to Felix that he has come by God's will, and compliments his church. Felix is shaken as he realizes that he was trying to burn down the very building which saved a lot of lives. All of a sudden, Will enters the church and arrests Alma C. Felix is left infuriated, but he promises to get the preacher out soon. In the meantime, Aviram interrogates Gabriel with the hopes of getting information on the Messiah's whereabouts. However, the boy honestly replies that he doesn't know anything about him. Aviram is confused as to why so many people choose to follow the preacher despite not knowing who he is. Back in Dilley, Rebecca reveals to her mother that she was hiding under a rail overpass in the trains when suddenly she saw the Messiah standing in front of her.